Hello everyone and welcome to Kimball's Corner. As you can see, we're going to be using some Jane Davenport products. I've got the Starpower inks, which are loaded with like a glittery mica, and a little bit of the INKredible ink in Frida, which smells like cherries, it's delicious. Also the Gods and Monsters ink, the little sprayer. I'm using the Paul Rubens watercolors. I was going to use Schminke, decided against it. Paul Rubens it is. Obviously my Prismacolor colored pencils, gorgeous array of colors, we love them. And then the FineTec metallic or the Pearlescent colors, just for a little bit of whimsy. So we'll start with the thumbnail. Cute. And basically I took a picture of her on the iPad and redrew her in Procreate, printed it out, just like all the other recent videos I've been doing. Using the good old ballpoint because it's got a nice line. And we start off real great by messing up right there. Oh, I was like, oh god, is this like a sign of things to come? Whatever, we get through it, it's gonna be fine. Anyway, take the little clippies off, and voila, we've got the transfer. So I've only used these like once or twice, and I don't know why, because it's a great range of colors, and they lay down so nicely. So I'm just spraying a bit of water on them to get them activated, and a little bit of water on the page just to help, you know, spread the pigment around. And I figured since she's kind of like a little reindeer girl, I don't know if she's really a reindeer, maybe she's wearing a headband, we don't know. So I kept the whole picture, like everything about her neutral. Like I kept it in creams and browns, grays, you know, just neutral, soft colors. And that way like the other colors later on can like pop a little bit. And I'm not familiar with these watercolors, so I'm kind of testing like, what do I use to mix colors? And I just mixed a little yellow and purple to kind of make like a bruisey skin tone. And I'm just working wet on wet, so the colors are just blending together quite nicely. Well, okay, her forehead isn't wet, but that's fine. It's just a little cast shadow from her hair. This palette is pretty new to me, so, you know, I'm trying to feel my way through. What I should have done is gotten a little scrap piece of watercolor paper to test my colors on. And that was very yellow, and I'm like, you know what? We're going with the reindeer theme. She's got yellowish in her, you know? She's got a little peach, she's got some browns. And I also forget how much lighter watercolors dry, and also a little duller, because, you know, when they're wet, they look rich and shiny and yummy and luscious. And then they dry, and it's like, okay, you dulled up a bit, but that's fine. I still love you, but can you just keep the pizzazz? This entire time, I'm like resting my chin in my hand with my elbow on the desk, and I'm just like kind of lazily adding colors, just enjoying it as I go. Rocky was working a million miles an hour across the desk from me. I just felt so lazy because I'm so like, ho hum. And he's over there just clicking away at the keyboard. Anyway, doing a little more wet on wet, just put down a flat color, adding in a little bit of shady bits. I couldn't decide if I wanted the lights to look like they were lit on her shirt. I think in the end I just decided against it. Adding a little more of a rusty pink, not pink, like a rusty red skin tone to her cheeks. And then I wiped my brush off and it kind of just absorbed it all up, but I smear around what's left. What's great about this is that it's Arch watercolor paper, and it is a fantastic paper, and you can layer and layer and layer multiple times. As long as you're gentle with your brush strokes, like, you know, you're not scrubbing the paper with the brush, you can put down a lot of layers and get like a really rich, deep color happening. Adding some more of a cast shadow rather than soft shadows. I wasn't entirely sure where my lighting was coming from. I eventually decided that it's going to come from the right, so I kind of add shadows more so to the left. Especially when you'll see it especially when I start on the hair, like I make the left side of her hair dark and the right side a lot lighter. And obviously I made that decision because now I'm making it much darker on that side of her face. It's always a little scary with watercolors for me anyway, because they're so much darker and richer when you lay them down that like, at first I was like, oh my gosh, that's such a strong color, but then as it dries, it does lighten. But also I'm like kind of new at watercoloring with like lots of layers and stuff like that. Normally I just splatter the colors down and splash them around and I make it very colorful. So this is kind of a newer thing for me, doing more of a neutral, calmer approach to a piece. Adding a bit more of a pink reddish hue to her lips. A little more life, a little more color. As I'm doing this voiceover, I'm waiting for a 4-pound box of chocolates to arrive. Oh my gosh. Adding just a touch of pink to the nose. And then I just wash my brush off, dry it off, and then wipe the excess pigment up into the rest of the skin so it blends in. And then I'm using like a warmer brown to just warm up the antlers a little bit. My arm looks so hairy, ew. Like when did that happen? Just trying to paint in a little bit of the texture. I guess technically these antlers don't have a lot of texture, but whatever. I like texture, so I added it myself. Went in for a bit of a darker color. I just dabbed it in so it can like bleed out into the wet on wet. Of course, knowing me, I have to like smudge it around everywhere. Getting a subtle gray color, a little too dark, but yeah, I just wanted to get a nice subtle gray color to shade the whites of her eyes. I kind of work, like I'll work in one spot and as that spot's drying, like, you know, I worked on her face and sweater because they're not touching so the colors won't bleed. So then when those were drying, I started working on the antlers, and then when like her face dried a little bit, I added some more of the pink tones. I kind of move around the piece. As one section's drying, I'll start working on a different section. You could always just dry the whole thing with a heat gun or just walk away and come back an hour later, but you know, I'm impatient and I try to get as much done as I can so that way I can use the heat gun and dry it all at once instead of having to like take heat to the paper over and over and over again. I don't know if it actually affects the paper, but it can be great for it. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. So I try to do as much as the painting at once, and then I do one big dry, and then I'll start adding up layers again too. But see how rich her hair was and now it's kind of dull? I'm like, oh, ashy gray. Or ashy brown. My hair's ashy brown. But I'm gonna come in with a darker, richer brown, and I'm gonna start adding like streaks and shadows, highlights, texture, you know, whatever you wanna call it. I'm gonna start adding it in. And again, you can do this technique over and over and over again to add as much depth and as much texture as you want. I have so much respect for the watercolor artists, or really any of the artists that use those just the teeny tiny brushes and do just like one hair at a time. I'm like, how do you have the discipline and the skill and the patience? Props to you, because I cannot do that. I can't bring myself to be that patient. Maybe someday. I figured I would just go in with like a lighter brown, since the hair is going to be getting lighter and lighter on that side of her head, and kind of just fade it out. But it's easier for me if I kind of start blocking in the colors, because then it gives me an idea of like the lights, darks, the values that I want to use, and also just the colors in general, because I could bring in some more of a yellow tone to the right side. I can bring in like a red tone, but right now we're just going to stick with the browns. And again, I'm showing that technique over and over. Obviously, I'm speeding it up. It does get repetitive, so I don't need to show it, for the whole set of hair, which I'm pretty sure I'll show a bit more, but then I'm pretty sure I just skip to the end because, it is repetitive and you don't need to see me doing it for 10 minutes. It's also very strange just giving somebody brown hair because, normally I give like pink hair or blue hair. So look at me giving someone natural hair. I'm really branching out as an artist. Last night on the live, Rocky finally announced that we're doing a vlog, so check that out. It's on YouTube. It's at Kimball and Rocky. Or sorry, no, it's not about me. It's at Rocky and Kimball, all spelled out. So here I decided to just add some like yellow right where the highlights of her hair meets like the shadow part of her, like the colored part of her hair. It's not really the shadows, but just on the tips where the highlights meet the color of her hair. I don't know how to say it without showing you, but anyway, I'm just keeping it on the edge of her highlights, just a bit of yellow. And you don't have to do that, that's just, I wanted to make her hair a little richer. Adding in a little reddish brown. I'm trying to just create depth with her hair, so I'm just trying to work behind the lines that I've drawn to make bits stand out brighter than others and push bits back by making them darker. Well, this is really hard to explain without being able to actually show you. Maybe I should do a little hair tutorial on a live. Either way, give it a quick dry and move on. I just grabbed like a dark brown and I'm just filling in her eyebrows like a solid brown color. I fill it in like halfway and then I wash the brush and I drag the pigment for the rest of the brow, just so there's like a little bit of a difference. It's not just a solid line on her head. And then I did the other one. And then I mixed some of the dark greenish turquoise into the brown for her lashes to darken it up, but also give it a little bit of color. And obviously I had to have a quick sip of the coffee. A few years ago, I drew comics a lot, and I would always draw like the lashes like this, where they were just big clumps. It's so much easier. You don't have to draw all the individual lashes. I think this is just as effective, unless you're going for like realism, then not so much. But for like, it's a nice effect for lashes. I think it works well. Coming in with a darker pinky brown color. Well, it's more like a orangey pinky color. Anyway, just using it for shadows. And also, I love, you can see in her lips like how the colors are layering, and it looks so nice. It creates little highlights that I didn't really mean to, but you know, now it looks like there's a little reflection coming off of her teeth on her lips. And then obviously we have to add a little more pink to the nose. A quick dry. Now I'm going to turn it upside down, and I'm going to wet the paper because I want the colors to be strongest at the bottom of the book, so that's why I turned it upside down. And so I'm going to just wet the page so that way I can put down the Gods and Monsters ink in the color Medusa. And this is actually a gradient. It has like a gradient shift to it, so you might see like, I think it turns like a dark purpley bruisey color might come through. Very cool. But anyway, I'm laying this color down first because the green with the sparkles wasn't as dark as I wanted it to be. So I'm gonna lay this down first as just like an undercoat, just to darken it up, add a bit of richness. And then I decided to hold the book upright, well, not fully upright, but hold it up a little bit just so the ink and the water can flow downwards, and it'll just help the flow of the color. And I'm not going for like a smooth gradient. Like I like the splotches and the different colors happening. But what I don't like is that the like veining of it, so I try to blend that out a little bit. And then I keep rinsing my brush off and just dragging the pigment down so it gets lighter and lighter and lighter. And then I'll basically do the same thing to the other side. Gave it a quick dry, and then you can see all the glitter is resting on the bottom of the bottle, so I'm giving it a quick shake. And then these bottles, I'm wetting the page, and then these bottles are really cool because they have like a little button on the top that you can click, and then it pulls the pigment and the glitter and stuff up into the eyedropper. And then you can just push the button and it squeezes the ink out. Ooh, it's so pretty. It is a green ink. You just can't tell because it's over the other green, but it has more of a yellow tint to it, and it has the gold mica or glitter or whatever it is in there. It's gorgeous. But it takes like that bluish green that I already laid down from the Medusa ink, and it just gives it a little bit of a yellow hue. But what I love about it is that, you know, it's all sparkly behind her, and then she's all matte, so like she pops off the page a little bit more. And I just did the same thing to the other side. And I had to take a smell because it smells like cherries. That product isn't made anymore. INKredible inks are made, they're just not made with the scent anymore. So I did like a drop or two of the INKredible ink with a little bit of water, and then I'm just gonna go in and color all the berries, just a flat red color. And it's amazing how just adding the red berries suddenly makes it very Christmassy. And then I thought, hey, why not color in some of the light bulbs? I mean, inks go so far. Remember that piece from the other one? Don't want to waste the INKredible ink, so I'm giving her some crazy cheeks. And I did finish this, and it's posted on my Instagram. But also, I did a live. So if you saw the live of me painting this, yay, good times. But yeah, you can see how that actually came together. And now I'm using the Starpower in the red, and I literally put a drop or two down, and then I was like, okay, let's just start spreading it around. And like one drop of this stuff covered like half the berries, and it's so nice. So now she has like just a little bit of sparkle running throughout her hair, and I just did that through all the berries and the lights. And then I just added a green dot to the light at the bottom, and so that's what the Starpower ink looks like in the green, just without like the other green behind it. It's just a lighter green with the gold sparkle. And then I pulled out the FineTec to get some gold. And I'm gonna use this for like, you know, that little metal bit that the light bulb screws into, and also for two of the light bulbs. Because I mean, red, green, and gold, my favorite color combo, because Christmas. I love Christmas. You know, I don't even care about Christmas Day. I just love all the decorations and like the vibe that you get walking through the cities and the Christmas markets. I am just a sucker for Christmas decor. What can I say? I just feel cheery, and it's all glittery and sparkly. And last night they had a huge firework display and the lighting of the tree here, and all of our decor, like throughout our little town, like got all lit up. It was very nice. And I mean, this is at the end of December that you're seeing this, so it was November 26th that all happened. So yeah, it was good times. I'm just using that peach to like, you know how I don't love texture, and this paper is very textured, and it kind of eats up the colored pencils. That's why I try not to use them too much. Mostly I'm using them for outlining. So you'll see me layer like a darker color, and then I'll layer a lighter color on top to soften the color, but also to soften the texture. And then with this, I'm using like a dark brown for the left side of her hair, and I use a little bit of I use less and less pressure the further right I get, because like, you know, I don't want to have dark lines where the highlights are. So now I'm getting like a mid-tone brown, and I'm going over the middle parts and kind of just blending the colors together. And then I'm kind of, you know, again, using lighter and lighter pressure the further I get to like the brighter side of her. And then I'll use an even lighter color to go over that brown to lighten it up even more and to soften the texture. So yeah, it's like a pale creamy yellow. And you know, if I wasn't a lazy artist, which I'm fine being, you could also just mix up a watercolor and use like a finer brush, and you can do the line work with a brush. Here I'm just doing darker red just around the berries. And then a little white for a subtle highlight. And I don't need to highlight all the berries, I mean the light doesn't hit all of them. Doing a quick outline of the horns, because I forgot. I also forgot her sweater, which I'm pretty sure I'll get that later, but adding in those texture lines, just, I don't know, I like the texture lines. They're not necessary though. Little white for some highlights. And you know me, I love doing highlights, so let's just do them everywhere. It's my favorite part. I mean, technically there shouldn't even be a highlight above her brow because it's in the shadow of her bangs, but like, don't stop me. Oh, it is starting to rain, so if you can hear that, apologies, but also it sounds nice. Coming in for the lips, I want to use like a dark pinkish color just for like the darker parts of the lips, which would be like, you know, the bottom of her upper lip. And then like, well, basically where her lips meet, I always make it darker there. And then I always do under the bottom lip. And then just the part that's in shadow. And then I'll bring in, I did that very lightly, just because it was covering up the carbon blue line from the trace transfer. And then going over with peach to calm that dark color down. And I do just a couple of layers of pencils until I get to where I like it. So after a couple of layers, I'm like, okay, I like it. Either I'm gonna take it too far and I'm not gonna like it, so I need to just stop and be happy with what I got. And then I'm adding a little more of the shading to the whites of her eyes, because they just weren't dark enough. And then I go back over with white to calm down that texture. Geez, you'd think I'd hate texture, and you'd be right. I mean, I love creating texture with like watercolors and stuff, but like I hate the texture of colored pencils on like rough paper. I don't know why. Just trying to do a couple of final touches, darkening a couple of the lines. That color was a little too red, so I just went over it with brown. Add a little texture into the eyebrows, make it like, you know, because it's hair, it's not super smooth. Unless, you know, you could shave your eyebrows and then draw them on. You do you. Little line work on the sweater. A little green line for the light cord. I really should go back to her sweater and add some texture and make it like a real true Christmas sweater. Some extra bright white highlights, because we love them. And then I decided to add some little white freckles, because you know how like on the young deer, they have like little white spots. So I thought, oh, she can have some white freckles. And then of course some bright shiny bits on some of the berries, not all, don't want to go overboard. And then I go overboard by doing the white outline, which I don't know why I love it. It just, for me, it adds a lot of energy to the piece. And I don't know, a lot of energy, a lot of interest. And it's like, is it hair? Is it her aura? Is it just a vibe? What is it? Don't know, don't care, just love it. And then I was like, is one thin outline enough? I don't know, let's think about it while we add some little lights inside the bulbs. Go around the little metal square thingies, because I can't go overboard with the white paint pen, obviously. And then I thought, let's add more, and a little more, and a little more, because why wouldn't I? And just a little more. Well, you know what, let's add a lot more. Oh my god. It's also a little tricky, because with the textured paper, the nib gets caught sometimes and it'll sputter. But that's okay. I mean, it makes like a little splat of white, but whatever, it's not really noticeable. As long as you're dragging away from the tip, it works, but if you push into the tip, then it gets stuck. Oh, and then I thought I'd pull out the FineTecs and add like, because these are more metallic and they're not glittery sparkly, they're like a metallic laydown. So I just want to do like a little swishes around the outsides of her. It's not terribly noticeable, but unless like the light hits it just so. Otherwise it kind of disappears into the green. I think it's a nice effect. And then I just grabbed my trusty old toothbrush and I just scrubbed it into, like, I got it watery and scrubbed it in, and now I'm just adding some little metallic gold splatters to mix in with like the gold glitter. And we're done. Thumbs up. Ta-da! I may go back in and add some darker bits here and there, but you know, I don't know. Anyway, look at that glitter. Oh my god, so gorgeous. So yes, I would just like to thank you all so much for hanging out with me, and we are going live next Sunday unless something happens for whatever reason. But yes, we should be back doing our lives and everything should be back to normal for the new year. Thanks you guys, and we will see you next week. Bye, take care, happy holidays and all the good stuff.